for you?
It's quite a lot, but I can summarize them. First of all, the matter has gone to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has decided, right? So it means that there's no other court you can go to, and there's no other body that can superintend over the Supreme Court. Maybe the window that's open is to go back to the Supreme Court for a review. But the last time some lawyers tried to go back to the Supreme Court, this was very senior lawyers in Nigeria. It didn't end well.
What about the merit of the case?
It didn't end well. So frankly, I do not see any legal routes that allows for that opens up the merit of the case itself. I can understand his initial, to say that he wants to go against the judge directly, and yes, maybe, but that has to do with, what the judge did or didn't do, not necessarily the substance of the case. But with regards to the merit of the case, he's my senior colleague. Maybe we learn every day. Maybe that there's a window out there but I personally don't think that there's any legal window after the Supreme Court. On your second question, I'll begin by saying even, let's say, 60 to 70% of the criminal trials that I handle myself personally have lingered for more than 3 years so far as it is. In fact, rarely do you see a contested criminal case, get completed within a year or 2 years. I think 5 years for a case of this nature is quite expeditious, to be very frank. When you look at the system as it is, we have more. Yes, we have more awaiting trial inmates than we have convicted, inmates. Than we have convicts. Awaiting trial inmates are literally the bulk of.
So we have more people awaiting trial.
Well, not even in the system awaiting trial yet. They are still with the law enforcement agencies. So, they are probably more than the people awaiting trial who are now more than the
people that have been convicted.
Yes, so it's like there's a row of people being fed into the system, and the system.
We have an urgent need for justice sector reforms.
Yes,
very urgent.
We hope that the Attorney General of the Federation, who is very experienced and learned about this, is going to put something forth in the nearest future with regards to. There's a third question about whether
justice for poor people.
The reality is, it's very difficult for you to get justice without a vigilant attorney. Now, for you to have a vigilant attorney, it's not always cheap. That's just the reality. So it's not about justice per se. It's about the fact that you have a prosecutor on one side, you have the court who's only, who can only work with what is presented before it, and then you need a defense counsel, who is going to ensure that, everything is done properly and, to put up a defense, so where a case lingers for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, for example, even you as a defense counsel, maybe, standing in pro bono, it begins to wear you down because you still have to finance the filing, the logistic, the transportation.
But the state has an obligation to provide legal counsel for people who cannot afford it.
Yes, but if you look at the Legal Aid Council, for example, even they are, they're not really that funded. I worked with them, or not worked with them, I volunteered with them, but most of the time they can't even pay you. You have to, because they're not that properly funded. But the law itself says that when someone is, doesn't have representation, that person, the state must provide representation for that person. But the reality is, I don't think that the state has really taken care of that aspect of its duty. So I don't think we have, state public defenders who are, funded by the state. We have a Legal Aid Council, but I don't think, and this is also where the Attorney General of the Federation comes, because the council, I think, is under the ministry. Okay. So yes, so there's a lot that can be done. Frankly, it's unfortunate. Frankly, for indigents, it's very difficult to really defend yourself, no matter how innocent you are. And like you said, if they didn't interfere, that would have been it. Because even the appeal process, for example, just to compile records, because when you file an appeal from the trial court to the court of appeal, you have to compile the record of everything that happened at the trial court, and you have to make, copies for all the justices of the, about 20 plus copies. That the process alone, you would have to spend 700,000 naira to 1 million naira before you now talk about the Supreme Court. And it gets so, before you prosecute a criminal defense case from trial to the Supreme Court, you would have to spend millions of naira. And how many Nigerians can afford millions of naira, especially when you are even awaiting trial, you are locked up, you are in detention, so you can't make money. You find that most of their families, they, after trying their best for some time, for a while, they tire out, because it's not as if it's that better outside anyway.